This tutorial video is going to demonstrate how to take a three-dimensional part file in Autodesk Inventor and create a two-dimensional drawing. Now, a drawing is essentially something we can print out on a piece of paper to communicate all the dimensions of a 3D object. Traditionally, if we were going to have this part created by a machinist, they would need this file in order to create the object. It's also a really good way of communicating to somebody who maybe doesn't have the same program or doesn't have the computing capability of CAD to be able to understand the part, its features, specifications, dimensions, etc. So the first thing we need to do is come down to Autodesk Inventor and go to New. We're going to create a new drawing. And there are different sizes here. If you have templates, if you do a lot of drawings, you should create a template that has as much information as possible here. Basically all your standards, company names, different things like that. But for our purposes, we're just going to go to, I'm just actually going to click drawing and show you how to change the size. So if I go to the sheet size, right now this is bigger than I want. I'm looking for an A sheet size, as you can see here from the drawing itself that I'm trying to copy. So if I go to the sheet in the browser and click Edit Sheet, I can change my size here. As you can see, the drop down, these are all the standard sizes. I'm going to go to A, and it tells you right here that that is an 8.5 by 11. That's just a regular sheet of binder paper, essentially, printer paper. I can orient that either portrait or landscape. This is a portrait that I'm trying to recreate here. And if I have a revision here, this is very useful for when you not just create a product, but if you have to go back and change your drawing to express more information or express it differently, then these revisions can help. You can have revision A, B, C, D, etc. But I'm going to leave that blank right now. Once I hit OK, you can see my sheet changes, and it is the same size here, so I'm looking good so far. First thing I want to do is create a base drawing. Now, the base drawing you can change with the view cube the same as you could in CAD. This is my base drawing here on the left, so I want to recreate this as much as possible. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is that circular boss, the dotted line tells you that that's on the opposite side, and the hex that contains the nut is on the near side, so I have to reflect that here. So let's make sure, oops, I don't want to do that yet. So this actually reflects that. If I click the view cube, if I turn it around, you can see that now the boss, this circular boss, is on the near side. So we want to make sure we get that on the far side and we can see the nut. That is how you can tell that it looks good there. Now let's see our scale. So our scale is 1:1 here. So in our menu, we're going to leave it at 1:1. And there are some different styles here. We want our hidden lines because the hidden lines show details beyond the surface. And these dotted lines on the circle boss over here are hidden, so we want to leave that alone. We can always, if we get it wrong, we can go back and double click and change anything. So even though you're selecting anything, just like the CAD program itself, you can go back and change almost anything. So I'm going to kind of put it over here, and I have an isometric view here that's projected, so I'm going to click projected, and I actually have to scroll up here. You can see when you roll around, it gives you different views. That's the view I want. I'm going to click right click and click create. Now this guy should be shaded with lines, so I'm going to click this over here. And this the isometric view is actually not attached, so I can drag it around. I also have this view right here that I'm going to need to create. That's basically just a side view. But make sure you have this original view selected, the base view selected. And these will actually be linked. You can see that dotted line. So when I drag one, the other one will move. Or when I drag the base, the projected will move. Click create. And as you can see here, there are hidden lines And over here on my example, there are not. So I'm going to double click that, and I'm going to break the link so that it's not the same as the base. I'm going to click the middle option. So that has hidden lines removed. I just think it's much cleaner that way. If we have all those hidden lines, it gets confusing. And as you can see, if I move the base, the projected view moves, but not the isometric view. Okay, now you see this A line here. This is actually a sectioned view. So it says right here, section AA, which is referring to this. Essentially, this AA line cuts this in half, and then we see the half over here. And those diagonal lines represent that this is part of a solid object that normally you would not see. But it gives us a really good view of the depth of the nut hole. And do note that the scale is slightly different, so we can take a look and see if that scale makes sense or not. But do be aware of that. Now to do a section view, we're going to click the section button. And essentially, I'm going to try and get this guy right in the middle. Click continue. And as you can see, there's my section view. Now I actually want the arrows a little bit further up, so I'm going to do that one more time. So section view, tell it which view I'm going to do. Now I actually want to make sure I get that line. I can't remember if I can move it or not. And you can see there's an options menu, but I'm not going to select any of those right now. Now I do believe we can move these. I wish it would snap to the middle, but it does not exactly. But for our purpose, it really shouldn't matter. Okay. So as you can see there, that created that section view. And then the next thing we're going to have to do, which will be in the following video, is go to annotate, and we're going to have to put in all these dimensions. So if you think about it, if I'm trying to communicate the dimensioned and specific size of this object to somebody else, I have to have all these dimensions laid out. And it's a little bit more difficult because not being in 3 dimensions, I have to kind of think a little harder about all the dimensions I need to express so that anyone else could go make this object, or the end user could make this object. But that's how you get started creating a drawing from a part in Autodesk Inventor. Following videos will show more detail on how to do that.